So this talk is understanding on how quality education can help your child, and it's quite a fascinating talk, I think, because we're in a very unique position as international schools and the setup that we have, and as we go through this presentation today, you'll be able to see how international schools and how Invictus kind of stands out and operates, and the ethos that they put into education to make it work for children. You'll also be able to see, and I'll just point out that while this talk is about the non-pen Invictus site, I think it's really important to know that Invictus is a family of schools, and so what's being said here today is going to be related to all of the other Invictus schools that we have around Southeast Asia. So it's quite neat to know that, you know, if you were a family that moved and you went to one of these areas that Invictus is staged, you would have a very similar educational system for you. As you can see, this slide, you know, Invictus it's an independent school, and it caters for both international and local students. And this is something that's really important to note, because you'll see that later on when we start to have the conversation with the mission, the vision, the curriculum, that there's a specific energy and effort that goes into developing this holistic approach for students. And I think that it's different and unique from other schools. So this is something that's really, really important to see. And I think you'll see a lot of the same kind of themes interwoven through what we are trying to offer and how we're trying to help children get a quality education in this modern world that we live in. So just a little bit of background history for those that are new to Invictus. You can see that it started in 2016. You can see that there was a problem with Mr. John, who was seeking a solution, and he wanted to be able to provide, you know, a really good education for his children without that massive expat package. So based on that, there was a lot of research done, there was a lot of investigating done, and the school started to take place. And you can see as it's progressed throughout the years, it has also grown. And so while it started in Singapore, we can now proudly say that we're now in Hong Kong, and of course we're in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And it's wonderful to see that growth take shape over time, and to see that continuation of what Invictus is trying to offer children and families around the world for education. So one of the things that's really important about understanding quality education is a school that has a great mission and a great vision statement. And I think that one of the things, and again, you'll see this, and I'll probably highlight this a lot through the conversation that we have here today, that the vision and the mission is interwoven into what we're trying to provide. And if you have a close look at the vision and you read the words there, you can see that we have things like leading an educational institute. And for us, that means that, you know, we have a high level, we have high standards, and that means that we have high accountability for what we want to provide for education for children. You can also see in the vision that there's a holistic approach to the learning, and what that means is that we want to develop the whole child, and this includes knowledge, the emotional side, and also the physical aspect of the children. We want them to grow and to become that complete person and to become lifelong learners. You can highlight and you can look in the mission statement about the things that we have quality education, and that for us and for me, it means that we teach what we use and what we teach, and the teachers that we employ to provide that quality education, and that's really important. We want to be innovative and we want to inspire. So we have up-to-date teaching ideas. We transfer those ideas and that knowledge into the classroom to help individual students develop their skills and their ability to learn. And of course, we have that phrase again, lifelong learners. And that means that we don't want to stop learning. We never stop learning. Our teachers don't stop learning when they're engaged. Their students, we want them to continue on. And we know that the world is constantly changing. And the other thing that we know too, and study shows that the children that we're teaching, a lot of the jobs, in fact 70% of the jobs, research has shown, have not yet been invented for the students that we're teaching. So we have to be innovative, we have to inspire, we have to be creative as teachers, as a school. And Invictus works very hard on constantly identifying areas that we can improve and engage the students in. Just a little bit about me. I won't go into too much detail about this, but you can see if I read from the bottom up, you can see that I started in New Zealand, and I was teaching and a teacher assistant principal there. I then went into overseas and international schools, and I've been to Brazil, I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Uruguay, and currently I'm in Rwanda, which is why I'm saying good morning to everyone else, and good morning for me, sorry, and good afternoon for you. So I'm very excited to be part of the non-pen Invictus School, and I'm really keen to share my insights. You'll see here in the rest of the slides that we go through, I'm going to be talking about these 7 main areas, and towards the end, like I say, if you have questions, and this is something, all of these areas are things that you're going to be interested in, you're going to be able to ask these at the end. But as you can see, we go down, we're going to talk about the location, we're going to head through into the curriculum, we're going to talk about the pedagogy that we want to help children learn with. And of course, at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about the communication. So as you can see here, the non-pen Invictus site, it's located in a really, really good area. It's right downtown. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because I think most people know about this, but it's very exciting. It's in the heart of non-pen, and it's got a great facility. As you can see here, in this aspect here, the school's gone out of the way to develop and create a stimulating environment for our students. And we've got a wonderful library that is set up to engage learners. You can see that the outdoor area is developed, and it's a way in which children can use their imagination. They can be creative, they can be inspired by the surroundings that they have. You can also see that we have open spaces, and this is really important for modern learning and our students in the 21st century. They want to have open areas, they want to have good lighting to help them learn. And our classrooms and our spaces create not only natural light, but really a nice environment for that to happen, which is important. Just moving into the core values and beliefs, Invictus believes strongly that we have these ideas here, and we really want our students to become respectful. We want them to respect themselves. We want them to be able to respect others. And that's something that when we are teaching in the classroom, when we are teaching at all levels, we embed this into our everyday lessons, into our conversations. It's something that we want them to be set up for life. You can see that we also want them to be resilient. We want them to not give up. We want them to keep trying, which is really important. But we're encouraging our students to be caring. They have to care for themselves. They have to care for each other. They have to care for the environment, and that's really a key thing that we're also working on. Collaboration, another really important thing. You can see that modern jobs, they're no longer individual jobs. People have to work together. They have to collaborate. They have to learn how to talk and share ideas. They have to learn how to be critical with one another, but respectful of one another. And this is a really, really important core value that we're bringing out. We of course want them to aspire to be excellent in what they're doing. So not settling for a pass, I can just do it, but really striving to show, hey, I can do better than anyone else, and I'm going to show you. And of course, we want them to have fun, be joyous in their learning. We want them to be able to share their experience that they're doing, have smiles on their faces. We want them to embrace life. We want them to be part of a wonderful community that they live in, and to celebrate the cultures and the community that they're part of. This is all part of that holistic approach that I spoke about earlier. And you can also see how later on how these core values will bend down and come in through the curriculum that we have set up here at Invictus. So of course we have to have a learner profile, and I think that this is really important for anyone, parents to understand, and for for the students to see. This helps them again build that holistic approach. So, what's really important is for our children to be imaginative, to have that freedom to wonder what if and why we are doing things, and creative in what they're trying to do. We want them to be innovative, so invent something, give it a go, to really bring out that creative energy that they have. Inspiring to be the best that they possibly can. So you can start to see how the values, the learner profile, they're starting to link in. We want them to be investigators. We want them to explore and have that curiosity in life, and to again wonder why and how and what if things don't work, and to be problem solvers. And of course, we want them to be international, and this is really important. We want them to learn about the world we live in. We want them to learn about the past. We want them to learn about the present. We want them to learn about the future. The world has become quite small because of technology, because of communication, because of travel. And perhaps right now, we can really start to see how small the world is, the situation that's going on, and how we are all joined together. So to have that international flavour, to share in these experiences is something that we really expect we really like to see. Our students need to be interested, and that's really important. And what we mean by that is to give it a go, because we might not all like one thing, but we have to try, because those different areas that we are trying to learn and trying to teach in the classroom all create a lifelong learner. They all give an individual the tools and the capacity to step out into the world once they've finished their education. So we want to create that person that is interested. And above all, we want them to be individuals. We want them to be caring for themselves. We want them to understand that everyone is different, and we respect that, and we like that, and we want them to be themselves in life, and be proud of who they are, and that's something that's very important also. As you can see in this slide, we're starting to look at the curriculum now, and I'll just give you a little tiny overview. You can see in the slide in front of you that we obviously start in the primary with the IPC. I'm going to go into all of these in a little bit more of a detail look at this soon. Once we leave primary, we then head into the Cambridge lower secondary, and this helps to set them up for the IGCSEs. And then finally, we head into the ALevels for the final years of school. So let's go into this a little bit so we can develop this out. So the IPC, it's a wonderful curriculum. It really does develop higher order thinking, and that's really important in today's life. We've talked about the values and the learner profile that we've seen earlier, but this higher order thinking of analysing, evaluating, synthesising, goal setting, these are things that we really want to help the children, to help our students understand. And the IPC does this, and it does it really, really well. And basically the IPC has three main areas of learning. So first of all, they have the subjects that the children can inquire into. And there's 131 of these units that the IPC has chosen, and they go from milepost 1, which is age 5 to 7. Then you've got your milepost 2, which goes from 7 to 9, and finally the milepost 3, which goes from age 9 to 11. Each of these units, depending on the school and how the school sets them out, they go between 3 and 12 weeks, and they mostly cover 3 or more subjects, curriculum subjects. So that's really important. The next part of the learning ideas is also the personal learning, and this is connected to the learner profile and the personal goals. So while the students are learning through the units, they're developing, they're interlinking all of those things that I said earlier about the learner profile, developing those. We're looking at how they can interact with those areas. And then finally, there's an international learning aspect, and that talks about the home country, the host country, and the adopted country, okay? And so for sometimes it can be all three. Sometimes we can have the host country and the home country is the same country, and it depends on if you're a local, perhaps a Cambodian at the school, that might be the host and the local country there. But the adopted country, perhaps you might be looking, for example, you might be studying rainforests, and you might adopt Brazil. as your adopted country because you want to study rainforests and how they work. And then what's really important to note too is that at the early stages of the IPC unit, they're really designed and created to in a way to help students understand the effort that's needed to be a good learner. Okay, so at the beginning of their education, they're understanding the importance, and then as we go up into the older years, as we move into Cambridge, as we head into the A-levels, they're taking all that training, all that education, all that knowledge, all those skills that they have, and they're embedding it and to become this individual specialist person with a unique skill set for the future. So the Cambridge Lower Secondary, it starts once the students leave the IPC. We've developed the skills, we've given them the tools necessary, and now they're starting to explore. They're starting to get a little bit more individually focused in subject areas. Okay. And they're starting to apply the learning strategies that they've taken, like I said, from primary, and embed these into their learning. So, the Cambridge Lower Secondary, we look at English, we've got maths, we've got the sciences, and they look at the 3 different sciences. So we've got biology, chemistry, and physics. We're also going to be doing Kamai. We've got languages. And in fact, we've also got those languages back in primary too. So we will be learning Kamai and Chinese Mandarin in primary, and that'll continue to grow up, and our students will be able to take they'll be fluent in 2, perhaps even 3 languages. And again, this is another thing that's really important. Learning languages is a key aspect to creating a lifelong learner. We want to be able to develop the art side. So, when lower secondary, they'll have the option of also looking at music and developing that out. Art and design, they'll be heading into global perspectives. So this is a way of looking at the world and what's happening in the world. So things like the environment, perhaps we're looking at recycling, perhaps we're looking at transport and the impact and starting to be critical about what's going on in life. We of course can want them to continue to be fit and to have that for them to grow. So we have physical education, we have health lessons. And of course, what's really important too is we also have ICT. ICT, of course, will be in primary too, but they'll be taking those beginner skills and they'll be applying them in a more direct and specific way when they get into the lower primary. When we head into Cambridge IGCSE, and this is where it starts to begin for the students. They've taken all that knowledge, they've given things a go in lower secondary, and then now what they're going to do is they're going to decide very specific, and they kind of start to think about their path and what they want to do when they do leave school and they head to university. So what we are using is of course IGCSE and what it's called the ICE Cambridge subject base. And basically there's 5 groups that they can choose from. There's languages, there's humanities, sciences, mathematics, and creative and vocational. Okay, and what the ICE says is that you can pass 7 subjects to get your IGCSE or ICE diploma, and 2 of those subjects are compulsory languages. So this is really important. You can see how starting the languages at a younger age and growing those up, there's an emphasis placed on languages and how they can help a student become a better learner. So we'll be offering English, Chinese Mandarin, and perhaps even French as a self-study or an additional language. In the group 2, in the humanities, we've got global perspectives, and we've got environmental management, and also economics. And those are really important key areas that we want to be able to provide our students. We think that these are going to give them a good platform to continue to grow. In the sciences, the students have the option of becoming a lot more specific. So they're going to choose a biology, or they're going to choose chemistry or physics, and they can choose more than one of these sciences. So, for example, a student that chooses physics, a lot of the time they will also choose chemistry too, because they interrelate, and they're looking at perhaps, they might want to become more rounded or more specific science focus in the future. Then we have mathematics, of course, and then in the creative and the vocational area, we have a choice of PE, music, ICT, computer science, and art and design. So we're giving the students the flexibility if they're going to be creative, maybe they're art and design, or perhaps they're going to be a lot more focused and they want to learn how computers work and programming. And of course, that is, that's again something that's really becoming a big thing in the world. So they do that for 2 years. Our students are really, they focus intently for 2 years, and then finally they're going to move into the A-levels. Flick through this. And the A-levels really, really good. And I think that this is worth, pointing out to parents out there that to complete A-levels gives your children a boost over many other children in the world. And I'll talk a little bit about why, this is important. First of all, A-levels go for 2 years. And so what it does, it shows university that the students have a dedication. They're focused and they've had to work hard, not just for 1 year, but they've got to maintain their academic performance over 2 whole years. And when universities start to see this, and when students start to go to university and say, hey, I've got my A-levels, my advanced levels, the universities like that because they see that dedication. They see that commitment to learning, and that's something that cannot be emphasized enough about that dedication and that learning. I see that mostly in A-levels. For the first year, students will pick between 3 and 4 of the curriculum areas, and then normally what they'll do is in the last year they'll tailor it back to perhaps 3 of these subjects. Okay, and one of the things that's really, really good about A-levels, and that's unique from other end of secondary exams, etc., that schools offer out there, is that the students have the flexibility of picking what they want. So there's no compulsory really want to focus in on, and that really does help them become a better learner. They're not forced to take something, they don't resent it. They're empowered to be selective. They're engaging because they've got interest, they're excited, and of course they're being that individual that we've been promoting, and that lifelong learner that we've been talking about all the way through. So these A-levels, they're a wonderful tool, they're a wonderful gift, and the students that leave these and they go into universities, they're going to be better off for it, I think. One of the things that, as we go through all this, that's really important to point out to families out there is that, we continue. We start at the beginning, obviously in primary, we go all the way through into the A-levels, into the secondary, and assessment and accountability is always there. And that's something that's really important for all families to understand. So, in primary, we are continuously benchmarking maths and reading. We're identifying strengths and weaknesses. We're creating an individual approach within the classroom so we can help specific students out. And that doesn't stop. Once we head into Cambridge, we have checkpoints that we do, and these checkpoints done at the end of primary and at the end of lower secondary, and they're externally marked too, which is really important to know. So the exams come in, they take these checkpoints, these individual checkpoints, they then go away to the UK to be marked off, and while that's going on, there's continuous other assessment that's been happening. We've got the teachers in there always formatively assessing. They're doing summative assessments. We're doing feedback. We're communicating to parents. We're communicating to individuals about areas that they can improve on, etc. And then when you get into the CIE and the international exams, again they're set up in a way in which they're from overseas and they're internationally recognised assessments, and they hold us accountable for what we are trying to achieve. Just a little bit on the pedagogy, and I think again this is really important. So on the left of your screen, you'll see perhaps the model that you as parents we grew up with. Okay, so you'll see a teacher-centered approach, and if you look back into when you were at school, we were sitting at a desk, a teacher was at the front on the whiteboard or the blackboard, and they were writing things down. and we had to copy, and we had to have direct instruction, and everyone was started at the same start position, and everyone finished at exactly the same time. And so while that kind of worked then, it doesn't necessarily work now. And that's really important to know because of the changing times, because of how our world's adapting, because of the needs that we have. So we're moving towards student-centered approach. And this means that we want their students to work together. We want them to inquire. We want them to be critical. And we want to give them big questions and to not just give them the answer, but to find out and to challenge each other. And so to do that, the teacher, while they're still teaching and they're still assessing and they're still designing and they're still actively in the classroom, they're also becoming facilitated, but they're giving the children the tools, and we want them to explore. And this is really, really important to know. And when their students start to do this inquiring, and when they start to be critical, and when they start to cooperate, and when they realize that sometimes there's more than one right answer, and if they can prove it, it really does support and build up their personal knowledge, their skill set, the tools that they have to take on other challenges in life. Another way to look at it is this gradual release model, okay? And so to the right of your screen, you'll see it's to do with the teachers. And then to the left, you'll see how it kind of goes down to become more independent. So obviously, at the beginning of a child's education, the teacher's going to have a little bit more input because, students need to learn what it is that they need to do, and we can't just assume that they have the tools already. So sometimes there is a little bit of I watch, you watch, sorry, I do it. But then we want to slowly move back. We do it together. We start to collaborate. We start to inquire. And then finally, as we get into the secondary and the IGCSEs and the ALevels, we want them to become independent, and we want them to do it alone. They've got the tools. They're able to reflect. They're able to be critical. They're able to evaluate what they're doing. And this can also be done in collaboration in the classroom. So finally, I'm coming towards the end. Just a couple more little slides here. You can see that with the school, we've got a special offer available at the moment for per year, the $5,000. And if you want more information on that, what you can do is that you can certainly speak to admissions here. You can see the email, the phone numbers, etc. And we can also have those conversations right now. So I'm just coming to the end now. I'm now going to open it up for any questions that people have, or perhaps there might be some comments in the comments.
Anybody who would like to ask questions at all? So when you enter this room, so what happened is we put you on mute. And right now, if you have some questions, feel free to raise your hand and wave at us so that we know that you have your questions, and then you can actually ask your questions right here. Is there anybody?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Indra. I have a question. Hi. Actually.
Please.
Yeah. So just now in the previous slide, you mentioned actually the registration up to August, right? So basically, when is the new term start for Invictus?
Oh, our term starts in August of every year. That's the normal school year that we go on, like most of the international schools.
So still related to that one, my second question is, let's say we know the current situation of the outbreak, right? Even I think the latest information also seems like there's a chance that school will open latest by November. So there's a chance that only in November. So let's say during that period, will there be any alternate option? I don't know whether, let's say, like online learning or what kind of things, to cover. Otherwise, it will be only November. Then maybe there's a lag in terms of student education.
Yes. So thank you for that question. We are actively involved in online learning, and not only in Phnom Penh, but already here in Singapore and in the rest of the campuses that we have. We are already currently doing our online learning, even right now as we speak. So yes, so to answer your question, in case we are not able to open the school in August, we will be able to open it in August for online learning first, so that the children does not fall back on their learning.
And I'd just like to add too that you can actually go to the website and you can have a look at the Invictus Family learning platform and have a trial out to see what it looks like in there. And that might be something that you're interested in too. So it is like Alex said, it's up and running right now, and it's a very good program, and it's something that's there and ready for you to have a look at.
I have a question.
Okay. Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Soka. I'm in Cambodia right now.
Right.
First, I would like to thank for the presentation because it was very interesting for me. And secondly, we are from a French, Cambodian Chinese background. So I'm looking for the Chinese lesson for my kids, but not like, just songs or something like that. I really want them to learn to write the Chinese words and so on. So will you provide the real Chinese lessons?
So the short answer is yes. We will be doing that. So we will have a Chinese Mandarin teacher.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a curriculum set up, a Chinese Mandarin curriculum set up, and when we do that, we look at the reading, the writing, and the speaking of the language.
Because actually we go to the French school, we have like Chinese curriculum, but it's more like singing and learning basic Chinese. Whereas my kids, they already speak Mandarin at home. So it's like there's a big gap between what they learn at school and what we expect them to learn.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, and that's I mentioned this earlier, is that we will have Chinese Mandarin in primary. We want to continue to grow that, because when you get into lower secondary and IGCSE, they become the students have to take 2 languages, and one of those will most likely be Chinese Mandarin, but it would be very difficult for them to take that if they didn't already have the skills of the reading and the writing and the speaking. So we want to grow that. It's important. It's a skill base, it's a knowledge base, and we want to, and we have to start that in primary. So we will be structuring our curriculum so it encompasses all of those areas.
Okay. I have another question about the A-level and the IB. Compared to the IB, what is the difference?
So the IB, you have to take 2 languages, and they also have a theory of knowledge component, which they have to take, and they have to do a 3,000-word essay. I hope I'm right on that. I think I'm right on that. And so those are all compulsory parts. Mm-hmm. They also go over 2 years. Okay, so this is the main difference. They have compulsory parts. A-level has the flexibility of choice. Okay, so if you want to be a scientist and you know that your motivation is to be the scientist, you might focus wholly on wanting to develop your maths, perhaps your physics, and you might say, you know what else? I also need to have a computer element in there too. So I'm going to do computer science, and I'm going to focus wholly on those ones there. And that gives you the freedom to really become really specific. And then when they go to universities, the universities see this. They see that you've 100% focused for 2 years on these core areas. And the university knows that you enrolling, you're probably not going to give that away now, because you'll set yourself up on a course to what you want to achieve in the future.
Okay, so for the university, if you go with the A-level, it's like better than the IB, or it's different requirement? I think
it's different. It's very difficult to argue one way or the other. But I think that, yeah, I mean, I'll go back to what I said earlier, which is the A-level really does create that specific focus for people, whereas the IB is trying to give perhaps a little bit more rounded focus over the 2 years.
Okay.
Can I follow on to that question and ask why you don't use the English system for the primary school as well?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Sorry, why is it that you don't use the English system for the primary school as well then? If you're using the A-levels and the IGCSE, then
Okay, really good question. Yeah, so in the primary we have the IPC, and if you think about these as big units of inquiry, okay, so like I said earlier, there's over 130 of these units. We then also embed into that curriculum the UK national curriculum. Okay, so we will be using elements a lot for the reading, the writing, the specific components from the UK national curriculum. And that's important to note because we want to be able, because that then crosses into when the students go into lower secondary, they're able to take those, they already have those fundamental skills. So there will be elements within that for the English side of it, borrowing and going from the UK national curriculum.
I saw a hand raised by Mr. Patel.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay,
I did have other questions.
Okay,
if I could
please.
take your time.
Go ahead.
On the website, I wasn't sure if it mentioned much about extra activities like after school clubs. Do you have a list of what you provide and what you offer? And finally, do you do swimming as well? Because I didn't see a swimming pool in your campus.
So okay, so for a start, we do have access to there's like a basketball court, almost right next to the school that we have there for physical education. No, we don't have a swimming pool, but we will be looking into sending the children to one close by, because that's an important element. Learning to swim, very important. Extracurricular activities, we will be having those, and there's a kind of an element of what parents want, and also what our teachers can offer. So we kind of need to figure that out, and I think at a closer date we'll be perhaps surveying the parent population to see what is it that you would like to have after school, and then building that into our program. But the after school activities are an important component. We will have that. We just haven't set that up.
I'm not sure if you spoke about this already. I came in and out, but languages. What are the mandatory languages you teach, and do you offer extra languages if we are more willing? Mind you, my kids is it for year 2 and first year?
Okay, so the languages that we offer are English, Khmer, and Chinese Mandarin. Depending on I guess how many parents would want it, we could increase another language, because I've also mentioned that in the IGCSE we're looking perhaps at a French, an option to take French, and if we saw that as a need and parents really wanted that, we would look deeply into how we can facilitate.
Excuse me, you said French? Maybe you can have French languages?
We would, again, like I was saying, if we have, if many parents turned up and they all said, French is really important, and we have a strong need for that, we would investigate into that. So.
Okay, great. Actually, because I'm French, and a lot in the French community, a lot of parents, they are looking for the best solution for their kids, because they don't want to put them in the French International School René Descartes or in EFI, the other French school. So we are looking for an alternative. So that's why I'm bringing my kids to Invictus, because I want them to focus and get more like international overview. And we are still looking for the French, because still it's their first languages. So if Invictus can provide more French, I can surely bring more French parents to the school.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for that. And like I say, we are planning to offer it as an alternative language in the IGCSEs. And so, we can definitely look at perhaps the lower and the primary too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to add on to what Clive has said. So yes, with sufficient demand for other languages, we can offer them as ECAs, if you will. But the subjects that are being taught in school, that will be in English. Okay, can I just see if there are any other questions from the rest of the parents? We encourage you to ask questions if you have doubts. Okay, Clive, do you have anything else to add on?
No, I just want to thank everyone for their time. I know it's not easy sometimes in the middle of the day having to sit down for one of these, but it's really nice to get to hear some family family members, to see faces, and to share what we have planned for the future for Invictus and non-pen, and I'm really looking forward and excited to being on the ground there soon.
All right. And I would just add on one last thing, which is that the IPC is also developed by the UK, in the UK by Fieldworks, and it's actually aligned to the UK national curriculum. So that is something that is interesting as well. And that is actually thematic based, which makes it even more interesting for kids to learn. Right. So that's all for me. So unless anybody has any other questions, we thank you for your time and we look forward to having you join us in the school.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
I just want to thank Judith and Richard for the online training, because we were like testing the pedagogy and so on with the kids and see if they like it. And they were so happy, and Emily loves Richard, is the best teacher ever. So thank you. So you made us finally decided to go to Invictus.
Yes. So as you have mentioned, we have already kickstarted our online learning, and Judith and Richard, they are our anchor tenant, and they have done a great job for our online learning. So we do encourage all parents to join us, both for online as well as for our physical campus in Phnom Penh. So much, everybody. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.